Good morning. We UUs, as we call ourselves, presumably value truth. This is reflected in what I see as the most uniquely UU of our 7 principles, that we promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. It is what we are here to do together. We lean on one another, we share, and we try to help each other figure out what matters in our lives, the lives of others, and in the existence of all things, everything. On the one hand, this principle marks our personal freedom within our faith tradition. We are not told what is true. We are not fed creed by chapter and verse. And this resonates in our tradition, which holds that revelation is ongoing and continuous. We consider Unitarian Universalism to be a living faith because new truths are always unfolding, or at least because each of us is always learning new truth. Our theological openness, this willingness to respect the different lenses each person uses to see the world, our willingness to embrace new ideas and truths, these, in my mind, are our greatest strength. We make room for personal growth and change. We make room for new learning, and we allow ourselves to adapt our perspective and our understandings to adjust as we grow. And this is all great stuff, but it sort of has an Achilles heel as well, just building to it, which we must accept if we want the rest. The problem is that by not defining what is truth, we enable ourselves to play a little fast and loose with the truth. For us, ultimate truth is personal, dynamic, and malleable. So without any claim of big T truth, which some other faith traditions have, there is much more room for our reality to be personal, subjective, and relativistic. I think that's probably why most of us are here now. Hence our use of the word responsible in qualifying our search for truth. These truths we find should be consistent with our other values, such as respecting all persons, demanding justice and compassion in our relations, and knowing that we are part of an interwoven web of existence. I can't just say that I have searched for the truth and tripped across the Church of Allen, where I am the center of the world and fealty to me and honor must be given to me by all of you all of the time. I doubt many of you would play that game anyway. But we can realize that ultimate truth is sort of a slippery thing for UUs. And I see that maybe as the best reason why we need to do this together. Our fellow congregants can and do willingly serve as editors of our own life narratives. Now, while the kind of truth I've been discussing here is critical to our worldview, it has very little to do with the truth we use and abuse in day-to-day life. Indeed, one thing that surprises most of the faithful in our society is that religious belief has very little to do with our ethical development and moral posture. It's common to hear the claim that church is essential for learning to be a good and moral person, but that's not really the case. Churches do provide guidelines that serve in that direction, but the religious explanations they provide often negate and hinder the development of a true moral system, of a personal value compass. Lying provides a great example. It's seen as important enough to have made it into the Big Ten, the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. So Jews and Christians and Muslims know that lying is supposed to be bad, against the wishes and the command of God, just like murder, adultery, and other things. But there is no discussion, no understanding of how this reality really works. Why not lie? Because you were told. Telling a lie, creating deception, bending the truth, these things are a regular part of our daily lives in one way or another. At least I think they are. We all have lied to others. And some of us do it frequently and with great skill and aplomb. While most of us would think that a person who is a liar should be held in some disdain, we hold varying thresholds of belief about the extent to which lying is wrong, or when it is sometimes an acceptable or a good thing to do. If I ask those of you here how frequently you have told a lie in the past week, and I won't, most of you would have to think a bit, and many might even have difficulty coming up with an example. Some of you, particularly parents, not to throw them under the bus, or those who work with the public, and others might be able to point to many occasions of speaking less than the complete truth, or at least veiling it in some manner. Most of polite society has absorbed lying as a way of getting along gracefully. What a lovely dress. You look good today. Or excellent sermon. If someone asks, do I look fat in this? You'd better be very careful before you answer yes. We come up with little white lies and euphemisms to lubricate daily life. My personal favorite euphemism is the expression so common in the South, well, bless your soul, which I came to learn means anything but that. When lying is okay, it has been the subject. This sentence makes no sense. Lying has been the subject of philosophical debate for years. Some, like Immanuel Kant, who I think we always raise as a difficult example, claims that all lies are wrong, categorically, regardless of the situation. If an angry mob comes to your door asking, is the person we are desperate to harm hiding in your home? Kant would have you tell the truth and give the person up. Not because he wanted them harmed by the mob, but because he believed that a good rule or law must be fixed and universal and is more important than the situation itself. That's a fairly extreme position. More commonly, the seriousness of lies is treated as dependent on a lot of things: the context, the expected consequences, and the motivations of the liar. In the case I just mentioned with an angry mob at the door, most of us would applaud the liar who claims, no, that person is not here. Yes, it's a lie, but the intent is to produce a consequence preventing unfair violence against another person. Without getting into the weeds, we can probably agree that if we negotiate our lives with care, we can learn when telling the truth in personal interactions is important. And like most things, we learn empirically. The feedback loops are often pretty good when we are caught lying or truthing unwisely. This is true whether the feedback comes from others or from our own conscience. The consequences of lying can bring great punishment. The reason lies work, and indeed why they are possible, is that most people operate on the assumption that in most normal situations, what people tell them is true. And we have cues to help us with this. We're far more likely to trust someone we know than we are to trust a stranger who approaches us on the street, because we build relationships with those we know that are reciprocal and durable. Trust relations are the root of our social connections, and they enable us to cooperate and sustain one another. Trust. By far the biggest threat from much lying, its worst consequence is an erosion of this trust, the violation of the presumed bonds between people. Part of becoming world-wise is learning to be skeptical of information provided by persons outside of your circles of trust. In fact, we usually discount statements from strangers until we can gain some information that maybe we should trust them or believe them. Advertising and marketing have become high expressions of the art of deception, misdirection, and frequently direct lies. We learn to expect this, and we treat the information we get commensurately. This might not be how we want things to be, but we understand that ads are created to increase sales, that the only end they really matter to the person sending the ad is the bottom line. Now, while we expect marketers to play with the truth, this trend is carried into other realms, particularly the political. The only the ends matter idea has carried into political dialogue, where scorched earth attack ads and negative imagery have replaced most debate on issues and ideals. This is a venue where we have witnessed the rapid erosion of trust and civility, and where access to power and control has, I will say, hopefully temporarily, replaced governance as the end game. You don't really need me to tell you about the existence of fake news, conspiracy theories, and abject lies in the public sector. What is clear from our recent experience is that until we find a way to provide checks on our political order, that conflict and lies will feed on themselves and continue to self-perpetuate and continue to divide and reify. There is very little shared trust among our legislators today, and that is a moral quandary that all of us have to solve. The consequences of lying are rarely immediate, but the threat is that untruth can lead to the corruption of the entire social fabric that sustains us. Alec Murdaugh, the lawyer from South Carolina who was convicted of murder last week, explained to the court how his lies and crimes spiraled out of control by quoting Sir Walter Scott, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave." In essence, saying that he could only cover for his misdeeds and lies with an ever-increasing stream of misdeeds and lies. So what's all this mean to us? If no simple rules are possible about when and if to lie, when the ethicists try to parse it out to figure out if lies are bad and how bad they are, things get really messy. But here, as with most messy problems, intuition and good sense has a lot to contribute. Maybe it's the only way we can handle these issues. Sissela Bach, a highly respected Harvard ethicist who wrote the book on lying, came up with what she calls the test of publicity. Which lies, if any, would survive the appeal for justification to reasonable persons? She says, in other words, what would others, reasonable others, think of the lie? Would they say, okay, or That's wrong. So that's sort of like the end product of a lot of philosophical thought. What would others think? In my reading of this, we're sort of back to the ideals of compassion and something like the golden rule. Only do unto others what reasonable people would agree is in both your and their best interest. This makes great sense, but it's not necessarily really useful. But what it does point out is that we're always returning to the realm of personal morality. How we make decisions and how we treat others around us really does matter. If you find that telling lies is something that's fairly easy, and if it's something you do frequently, I would say that's probably a red flag. Other things being equal, which they never are, intentionally telling untruth is a bad plan. Some lies may be good, but we need to make sure that we're not just rationalizing a self-serving notion or enjoying the process of deception and control. While lies we have told may bring shame, they probably shouldn't. Like any weakness, recognizing the issue brings an opportunity for self-exploration and learning. Why did I choose to tell that lie? Was I protecting myself, creating a shortcut, or just being selfish? Was there a better option? Would truth-telling have been a problem for real? Instead of feeling shame, we should use each such event as a window into our own minds to help us learn what makes us tick, what we're thinking, how we react. Lying can compromise our reputation. It can create distance between ourselves and others. Lies can damage our own self-concept and our sense of integrity and pride in self. But the larger cost of lying is breaking down social cohesion by introducing reasons for distrust, and skepticism in daily relations. We rely on the stability and trustworthiness of those around us. And when this starts to fall apart, all bonds that connect us and hold us together can become compromised. The lesson I hear in this about discerning what behavior is morally appropriate suggests that we need to work constantly to remain in touch with what we understand to be or think of as our better self. Know thyself. This isn't easy, especially as we ourselves might be the most common target of our own lying. It's very easy to lie to ourselves, to rationalize, to revise, to bend memory, to protect ourselves with our own thinking. Some of the Buddhist ideas described in Following the Eightfold Path seem appropriate and wise here, including the actions of right thought and right resolve, and the conduct activities of right speech and right action. Just like any other activity, ethical behavior requires learning, practice, and training. There's something akin to muscle memory in our skill at practicing truth-telling. So as we deliberately engage in our free and responsible search for truth, and while we are always skeptical that what we know and hold is actually true, let us work to value and protect the truths that we do know and hold. And by the way, you all look lovely this morning. So be it, blessed be.
So we're going to do 374 to the tune 371, which is a doxology tune. I will play it once and then we will sing it. Please stand if you're of it.
And I have one comment.